The PA on floor 14 came on at 3:31:17 a.m. It was my voice, not a voice that sounded like mine, not a recording of someone with a similar cadence or a similar flat Midwestern delivery. My voice. The exact way I say sector clear at the end of every room check. That particular shape I give the word sector, slightly front in the mouth, almost clipped. Camera 6 covered the floor 14 north corridor. The audio flag triggered at 3:31:17. I switched the live feed. Empty hallway. Exit sign blinking in the humidity. Dust on the sealed emergency door at the far end. And my voice, coming out of a speaker that had been physically cut from the main panel 4 months earlier. Electrical permit E7704, filed October 14th. PA zone F14 decommissioned, breaker opened, lockout tagout applied. Loto padlock number 77004-14. I know the permit number because I filed the work order escort request myself. Badge 0814. That's me. The voice described my posture, how I hold my radio against my thigh when I walk, how I favor my right shoulder carrying the mag light, how I pause near the revolving door at 2 a.m. and look at the street before turning back. The voice knew this. It said it out loud, at 3:31 in the morning, on a floor no one was allowed to access. I've been trying to explain that for 11 consecutive nights. I can't. I took the Pendleton Financial Tower post in November 2017. 22 floors, glass and steel, built in 1989. The kind of building where the elevator panels are polished brass and the lobby marble is real, but the HVAC system hasn't been fully serviced since the second Bush administration. I was hired by Covington Protective Services. Solo post. Midnight to 8 a.m. No partner, no rover. Just me and the camera bank and the elevator hum and the city noise bleeding through the lobby glass. My predecessor, a man named Ellsworth, had worked the building for 6 years before retiring. He left a laminated page taped inside the security desk drawer. 6 items, handwritten in blue marker. He'd titled it, in block letters at the top, "What I Know." He'd crossed that out and written, "What to Remember." He'd crossed that out too. He left it blank above the list. I remember most of them. Number 1 was, "Don't use the desk intercom after 2 a.m. He wrote that it picks up something. He wasn't specific about what, and you'll hear voices that aren't there. Number 3 was, "If the cargo elevator stops at floor 14 on its own, don't take it up. Wait for it to come back down on its own. It always does." Number 5 was, "There are 11 minutes somewhere in every shift where nothing feels right. You'll know when it starts. You'll know when it ends. Don't log it." I thought he was a man who'd spent too many nights alone in a quiet building. For 9 years, I thought that. Pendleton has its own language, the way every old building does. The floor that slopes slightly near the north stairwell on level 8. The way the lobby cameras get a shadow artifact at 1:15 a.m. from the streetlight angle. A diagonal stripe across the marble that looks like a figure walking if you catch it in peripheral vision. Which elevator runs a half-second slow on the up cycle. The vending machine on 6 that buzzes 3 times at 3 a.m. always, like it's counting something. I knew it all. 9 years of knowing it. Then November 2nd, 2026. I was at the desk doing the standard camera sweep. 16 monitors. Scan left to right, top to bottom, every 30 minutes. Camera 1 lobby, camera 2 parking entrance, camera 3 north elevator bank, camera 4 south stairwell, camera 5 floor 14 elevator lobby, camera 6 floor 14 north corridor. The audio alarm triggered while I was looking at camera 6. Pendleton had upgraded to audio alert monitoring in 2023. Directional microphones mounted near each camera. If ambient sound in any zone exceeded threshold, 40 decibels sustained for more than 3 seconds, the system flagged it at the desk with a yellow alert light. Camera 6, yellow alert light. I hit the live audio feed. My voice. North corridor clear, B-wing exit secured, elevator lobby secure. My end of round phrase, word for word. The exact sequence I used at the end of every floor 14 sweep during the 6 months before the abatement lockout. I looked at camera 6. Empty hallway, exit sign blinking. Dust undisturbed on the sealed emergency door at the far end. No shadow, no movement, nothing. The voice continued for 45 seconds, the full check phrase. Every section, corridor exits, elevator lobby, stairwell access, window seals. Every section I used to cover on floor 14 before October. Then silence. I sat with the audio feed live for another 2 minutes. Nothing. I logged it, 3:31:17. Audio anomaly, zone F14-north, source unidentified. Then I pulled the floor access log for floor 14. 0 entries. Not just that shift. 0 entries since October 14th. 19 days. I went to the PA system panel in the first floor utility corridor at 3:40 a.m. The panel is a gray metal box behind the custodial closet. Zone F14 had its own breaker, third from the left in the lower row. The breaker was open. The Loto padlock was still in place. Padlock number 770414. Yellow warning tag attached. Initiating technician's signature legible. I took a photograph of the tag. Then I stood in the corridor for a while. The building hummed around me. HVAC cycling through somewhere above. A pipe ticking as it cooled. The usual sounds. Everything normal except for the photograph on my phone and the log entry I'd written. I went back to the desk. I wrote up the full incident report. I read it back to myself. I'd written, sound consistent with security guard badge, standard shift verification phrase. I deleted that sentence. I wrote it again. I left it in. I told Gary Mitchum the next morning. Gary managed Pendleton since 2019. Good man. Practical. No patience for anything that couldn't be traced to a work order or a contract number. He pulled up the permit record while I was sitting across from his desk. E7704, subcontractor sign-off, October 14th, photograph of Loto tag, license number on file. Everything in order. He looked at the camera log. He looked at the audio flag timestamp. He said, "You're sure it was your voice?" I said yes. He scheduled a PA system diagnostic for Tuesday. Tuesday, the technician spent 3 hours on it. His report said zone F14 had no active connection, no power path, no signal route. Completely decommissioned per the permit. He wrote in his summary, zone F14 cannot physically emit audio under current configuration. He signed it and left at 2 p.m. Monday night, night 2. The PA came on again. Zo 3:30-10 a.m. Camera 6, different content. This time the voice wasn't reciting the end of round phrase. This time it was describing the lobby. The marble crack near the east reception desk. The one maintenance has patched 3 times and never fully fixed because the building settles slightly toward the northeast corner. The way the after-hours lighting makes the lobby feel like the bottom of a swimming pool. The way I always pause near the front revolving door on my 2 a.m. round and look out at the street for 30 seconds before turning back. Things I do alone. Things I have never described to anyone. The voice spoke for 62 seconds, then it stopped. I sat very still at the desk for a while. I checked the PA panel again, Loto padlock in place. I wrote the log entry. Then I sat still some more. The vending machine on 6 buzzed 3 times, like it always does. I did not find that comforting. By night 3, I had stopped being startled by the alert light. I was still afraid, but a different kind of afraid. The kind that sets in when you've accepted that something is happening and you still don't understand it. Quieter, colder. Night 3. The voice described my patrol route. Not the route printed in my post orders. The actual route I walk. The one I've developed over 9 years. The deviations from the official map that account for the sticky door on level 7 and the camera blind spot near the freight access and the fact that the third floor men's room lock sticks in cold weather, so I always do that door second. My actual route, memorized from years of walking it, never written down anywhere. The voice gave it correctly, every floor, every deviation. The timing was right to within 30 seconds. I sat at the desk and listened to it all the way through, and when it finished, I put my hands flat on the desk surface and breathed through my nose for about a minute. Then I started taking notes. Step 26, Part 1, E1 ton. Night 4 was the one that made me understand this wasn't random signal bleed or electromagnetic interference or anything with a clean explanation. Night 4, the voice described a phone call. I receive a call from my daughter most Tuesdays. She's in Portland now, works early mornings, so she calls me on my shift around 1 a.m. her time, which is 1 a.m. for me too, because Portland is the same zone. We talk for 20-30 minutes. About her work, about her kids, about whatever's bothering one of us that week. The week before Night 4, we'd talked about her older son, my grandson Marcus, and a problem he was having at school. A specific problem, a specific situation involving another kid and a teacher who'd handled it badly. We'd talked about what she was going to say to the school. She'd cried a little. I'd tried to be useful. No one else knew that conversation happened. I hadn't written about it. I hadn't mentioned it to anyone. I'm not on social media. It was a private conversation between two people in the middle of the night. The voice on floor 14 described it. Not in full, not word for word, but enough. The outline of it, the emotional shape of it, Marcus's name, the name of the school, the part where she said, "I don't know what to do, Dad," and the part where I said, "You'll figure it out. You always do." I was standing at the desk. I heard my own voice say those words. My mouth was closed. I checked. I put my fingers against my lips to be sure. My mouth was closed. The voice said those words and then continued into the patrol route description I recognized from Night 3, and then looped back to the marble crack in the lobby, and I realized it was cycling, looping through content, like a playlist, but the playlist was my memory. I turned off the audio feed. I sat in the silence for a long time. Then I started writing everything down. Nights 5, 6, and 7 ran together in a way that's hard to describe cleanly. The timing was always the same. Camera 6 yellow alert, my voice. 45 to 90 seconds of content. Then silence, but the tense shifted. Night 5, I noticed it first. The voice was using present tense for things that hadn't happened yet in that shift. The south elevator is going to make a grinding sound on the down cycle around 4 a.m. That night, the south elevator made a grinding sound on the down cycle at 4:07 a.m. I had the maintenance log to check it against later. It was logged by the system as an anomalous mechanical event, not something I could have anticipated. Night 6. More specific. The voice said, "There's a person standing outside the parking structure, east exit at 4:45. He's not going to try to come in, he's just standing there. He'll leave after 12 minutes. At 4:45, I pulled up camera 14, parking structure, east exit. A man standing outside, hands in his pockets, not moving, not approaching the door. At 4:57, he walked away. I have no explanation." Night 7. The voice stopped mid-sentence at 3:31:52 and didn't resume. 35 seconds, then silence. I don't know what to make of that. I've turned it over many times. All I can say is that the silence felt different from the other silences. Pointed, maybe, like a pause rather than a conclusion. I slept badly during those days, which is the opposite of what usually happens when I'm on nights. Usually I sleep fine. After Night 7, I called my brother-in-law. His name is Ken, and before he retired, he did sound engineering for a recording studio in Cincinnati. He's not a scientist, but he knows audio. I had 11 seconds of the PA broadcast on my phone. I'd managed to capture it on night 5 by holding the phone to the audio feed. Rough quality. Room tone underneath, slight digital compression from the security system's mic. But my voice was audible. I emailed it to Ken without telling him what it was. I asked him to listen and tell me what he heard. He called me back the next afternoon. He said, "Where did you get this?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This is a spectral match for your voice. Like, not close, exact. Same formant structure, same fundamental frequency distribution, same nasality pattern. If I ran this through the analysis software I used to use, it would flag as the same speaker as anything you recorded today." I told him where I got it. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, "The recording quality sounds like a compressed mono system from the early 2000s, but the voice content sounds like you now, not you in 2000. You sound older in this clip, more settled." I told him I was 51. He said, "You sound 51 in this clip." There's more. Covington Protective Services required a voice-recorded orientation module when I was hired in 2017. Standard procedure, verbal confirmation of post orders, emergency protocol, radio codes. It was recorded at their downtown office on a Monday morning. That recording was supposed to be deleted from their servers after the 2-year retention period. Ken found it, not on Covington's servers. Those had been migrated twice since 2017, and the old files were gone. He found it through a media forensics contact who does contract work for law firms. Somehow, a backup of Covington's 2017 orientation files had ended up on a third-party storage archive during a system migration. The contact pulled it. Ken ran the spectral comparison between my 2017 orientation recording and the 11-second clip from Floor 14. They did not match exactly. The Floor 14 recording was a closer match to my current voice, my 2026 voice, not my 2017 voice, meaning the Floor 14 recording was not made in 2017 or before. It was made from a version of my voice that didn't exist until approximately now. Night 8. I brought a digital recorder, better quality than the phone. I set it up connected to the security desk audio feed output jack, taped to the desk, output level maximized. Yellow alert. I let it record. The voice ran for 73 seconds. I got all of it. Night 9 is the one I have the hardest time talking about. The voice gave another prediction. It said, "The south elevator is going to stick between floors 7 and 8 tonight. Not a mechanical failure, just stick. It'll release on its own after 9 minutes." The prediction delivered at approximately 3:31:40. At 05:12:07, I have the system log. The south elevator stuck between floors 7 and 8. It released at 5:21:03, 9 minutes and 56 seconds. Close enough. Elevator maintenance logged it as an anomalous hold event, cause undetermined. I called Gary Mitchum at 8 a.m. I told him about the elevator prediction. I told him about the spectral analysis. I told him about the orientation recording. Gary is a practical man. He manages a 22-story building. His job is work orders and contracts and liability. He looked at me across his desk for a long time. Then he said, "You're going to need to take a day off. You've been on this shift for 9 years. That's a long time." I asked him to request the PA system event log from IT. He said he'd look into it. Night 10. The voice described floor 14, but not the current floor 14, not the stripped-down floor I'd seen when I escorted the abatement contractors in October. No ceiling tiles, no carpet, bare concrete, the PA speakers disconnected and hanging from their junction points. The voice described a furnished floor. An office, northeast corner, big windows looking out toward the river, a particular desk arrangement, a whiteboard with specific text on it, a plan on the windowsill, a ficus, slightly leggy, needs water, a framed photograph on the desk, face down. I pulled the pre-renovation floor plans from Gary's office the next morning. The northeast corner of floor 14 pre-2022 renovation was a corner office, big windows facing the river. The floor plan showed a built-in desk on the east wall. I don't know about the whiteboard or the ficus or the photograph, but the desk was right. The windows were right. The voice described a room that was demolished in 2022, with details that matched a floor plan I had never seen until the morning after night 10. I stood in Gary's office looking at that floor plan for a long time. Then I made a decision about night 11. Step 36, Part 2. I decided I was going to be on floor 14 at 3:31 a.m. Not inside. The stairwell doors were still deadbolted, the only keys held by the abatement contractor, who was not reachable at 3 a.m. But I could get to the landing. The stairwell itself was accessible. The deadbolt was on the floor 14 side of the door. The landing between floors 13 and 14 was reachable from the stairwell without any special access. I logged my normal departure from the desk at 3:15. Camera 1 would show me getting up and heading toward the north stairwell, which was consistent with a standard floor check. Nothing irregular in the log. I climbed to the floor 14 landing. The stairwell is concrete and metal railing, and the particular cold that comes from being between two sealed spaces. Fluorescent emergency tube on the ceiling, 1/3 of its length burned out on the right side, casting a yellow stripe across the landing. The floor 14 door was in front of me. Steel door, deadbolt engaged, the keypad reader dark, powered down as part of the abatement lockout. I checked my watch, 3:28. I stood on the landing and waited. The building had its sounds, HVAC cycling somewhere above, a distant elevator motor, a pipe ticking in the shaft behind the wall, the exit sign on the landing below buzzing faintly, the way it had been buzzing since at least 2019. 3:30. I put my hand flat against the door. The door was cold, not unusual. The floor was unheated, abatement protocol. But the cold felt specific. The way cold feels when a window is open in another room, and the air moving through the door gap carries the outside temperature with it. There were no windows open on floor 14. The abatement protocol sealed every penetration. 3:31. I checked my watch. Arrived, and before the second ticked over, the PA came on inside, through the door, through the steel and the deadbolt and the insulation. My voice, 2 inches away. It was mid-sentence before the timestamp hit, as if it had started before 3:13. As if 3:31:17 was the moment I was allowed to hear it, not the moment it began. The voice was describing the landing. This landing. The burned-out fluorescent tube. The cold. My hand against the door. My posture, shoulders slightly forward, head tilted toward the door, the way I lean when I'm listening hard. It was describing the present moment. Not a patrol route or a phone call or a floor plan. This moment. At 3:13 exactly, I know the timestamp because I was watching my watch. The voice stopped, not fading, not trailing off, a clean cut mid-word. Then footsteps, on the other side of the door, moving away from me into the sealed floor. My footsteps. The weight distribution, the slight drag of my right heel that I've had since a knee issue in 2021. The rhythm I walk when I'm tired and not thinking about how I walk. Measured, even, getting fainter. Then nothing. The silence on the other side of the door was the loudest silence I have ever heard. I stood on the landing for a while longer. My hand was still against the door. Then I went back to the desk. I wrote the log entry for the night 11 PA event at 3:45 a.m. I wrote it very carefully and factually. I did not include the detail about the footsteps. I don't know why. It felt like the sort of detail that would change how the rest of the report was read. At 6 a.m., I requested the PA system event log from IT. The IT manager, a woman named Priya, who I'd coordinated with a few times on camera system updates, sent it over at 7:15. 11 entries, one per night, starting November 2nd, Zone F14 North. Activation type, manual trigger. Duration ranging from 35 to 73 seconds. Initiator field, all 11 entries, badge weight and 4. I looked at that for a while. I hadn't triggered the PA. I was at the desk during 10 of the 11 events. On night 11, I was on the stairwell landing. I was not inside floor 14. I was not anywhere near a PA control panel. Then I looked at the creation date of the first log entry. The IT system automatically timestamps log entries when they're first written. The creation date on entry 1 was not November 2nd, 2026. It was September 3rd, 2017. Badge 0814 was first assigned to me on November 18th, 2017. I know this because I still have my original hire paperwork. Date of badge issuance is on the second page. Gary Mitchum pulled the badge assignment record from Covington's HR files the afternoon I showed him the IT log. November 18th, 2017. That's when badge 084 was created and assigned. The PA system log showed badge 0814 triggering Zone F14 on September 3rd, 2017, 11 weeks before the badge existed. Gary looked at the dates for a while. He has a particular expression when something doesn't fit into his work order framework, a kind of stillness, jaw set, eyes not quite focused. He had that expression. Then he said, "This has to be a logging error. The IT system must have imported old data from somewhere and the timestamp got corrupted." He said it like he was explaining it to both of us. I asked him to check with Priya about the timestamp source. Priya confirmed the creation date on that log entry was native to the database. Not imported, not migrated, not recovered from a backup. The database showed that entry as having been written into the system on September 3rd, 2017. The building security system wasn't installed until February 2018. The database was created in February 2018. An entry in that database has a creation date of September 3rd, 2017, 6 months before the database existed. I'm retired now. Left the Pendleton Post in January. 12 years, not 9. I realize I've been saying 9. I lose track. The abatement on floor 14 was completed in March. They're renovating the floor now for a new tenant. Open plan, standing desks, the usual. The PA system on floor 14 was reinstalled as part of the renovation prep. New wiring, new speakers, tied into the current building system. I got a call from the new guard last week. A man named Doyle, hired by the company that took over from Covington when they lost the contract. He said the PA on floor 14 came on at 3:31 a.m. He didn't know the history. He hadn't read my incident reports. Those had gone into Covington's files when the contract changed hands and Covington wasn't going to share them with a competitor. He just called me because my name was still on a contact sheet in the desk drawer. The old contact sheet from before I left. He said the PA came on and it sounded like a recording of someone doing a shift check. He said the voice was calm and flat and specific. North corridor, B-wing exits, elevator lobby, the full phrase in the right order. He asked if I knew what it was. I asked him what the voice sounded like. He thought about it. He said it sounded tired, like someone who'd been doing the job a long time. I told him to log it. I told him not to worry about it. I told him to make sure the LODO documentation was in order for any decommissioned zone. I didn't tell him I was going to call Priya in the morning and ask her to check the PA event log. I didn't tell him what I expected to find in the initiator field. I didn't tell him about the footsteps. He's new. He doesn't need to know about the footsteps yet. But he will. That's how it works at Pendleton. You figure it out eventually. There's one more thing I haven't mentioned. After Doyle called me, I went back through my old shift notes. Not the official logs, the personal notes I kept in a spiral notebook in the desk drawer, alongside Ellsworth's laminated page. I'd been logging the PA content every night, every word of it that I could remember or transcribe in real time. 11 nights of content across 3 notebooks. I read through them in order, sitting at my kitchen table in the morning, and I noticed something I hadn't noticed before. The content wasn't random. It wasn't cycling through my memory in the way I'd originally assumed. One thing, then another, then another. There was a shape to it. Nights 1 through 3, the voice described my habits, my route, my physical mannerisms. Nights 4 through 6, the voice described my relationships. The phone call with my daughter. A conversation I'd had with the day guard, Hector, who I overlapped with for 15 minutes every morning, and who I'd told about a leak in my apartment ceiling. Nights 7 and 8, predictions, elevator behavior, the man outside the parking structure. Night 9, more predictions, more specific. Night 10, the description of the pre-renovation floor, the corner office, the ficus, the face-down photograph. Night 11, the present moment, real-time narration. That's a sequence. It was building toward something. Learning, maybe. Starting with what was observable, patrol routes, physical habits, moving to what required access, private phone calls, then testing its predictions, then demonstrating knowledge of a past it shouldn't have access to, and finally arriving at the present moment. As if it was calibrating. As if it needed 11 nights to learn enough to narrate in real time. I don't know what it was calibrating for. The wiring was pulled after I left. Floor 14 was stripped and rebuilt. New PA system, new feeds, new everything. Doyle said it came on at 3:31 a.m. If it started over, night 1 again, then right now, wherever Doyle is in his relationship with this thing, it's learning his patrol route, his habits, his voice. I hope he has a daughter to call at 1 a.m. I hope it takes a while to get to those nights. The voice knew what I was going to say before I said it. I still don't know how to file that. Step 4.